On this Veterans Day, I want to begin by thanking all of our veterans in Alaska, and importantly, all of their families. You know, something I've told my wife and daughters, that if you're serving in a family that has a military member serving, you're serving too. So to all our veterans, to all their family members supporting those veterans and our military, thank you for your tremendous service. You know, I never tire about bragging about our great state in terms of having more veterans per capita than any other state in the country. And I am positive about this next fact. Our communities in Alaska, all of our communities, are so supportive of the military and our veterans, more so than any other state. And that's something we just expect, but it doesn't happen in every community, every state in the country. So on this Veterans Day, I also think it's important to reflect upon how Americans have viewed and treated and looked at our veterans over the years. Of course, here in DC, we have many, many monuments dedicated to honoring our military, honoring our veterans. I'm here tonight at the World War II Memorial, which is a beautiful memorial. One of the best things I get to do as your senator is to greet our veterans who come here on honor flights, either at the World War II Memorial or the Vietnam Memorial or the Marine Corps Memorial, Air Force Memorial. So we're here tonight thinking about this idea of how our country has honored its veterans. Now, of course, right here, we're honoring our World War II veterans. And when our veterans came home from World War II, they had literally saved the world, the greatest generation. We lost over 400,000 killed in action in that huge war. But this monument right here is a testament to how our veterans were treated. We held them in the highest respect after World War II. But then that started to change. And then came the Korean War, and the respect that we had shown our World War II veterans in terms of our returning veterans coming home from Korea started to decline, somewhat akin to benign neglect. It just seemed like Americans weren't interested in hearing about the tens of thousands of our veterans who were wounded, killed in action, over 100,000 wounded in action, 8,000 still listed as missing in action, and even the name that is given the Korean War, the Forgotten War, kind of gives this indication of benign neglect. The better way, in my view, to think about our Korean War veterans who sacrificed so much, and you see that here at this very haunting Korean War Veteran Memorial in DC, is the better way to think about their service is what's etched in this very memorial, where it says, "Freedom is not free." It says it right here. And then it also says that our nation honors her sons and daughters who answered the call to defend a country they never knew and a people they never met. You know, this summer we had the Korean ambassador in Anchorage, and he presented medals of freedom to 8 Alaskan Korean War veterans in a very moving ceremony at our memorial on the Park Strip in Anchorage. That's the kind of memorializing our Korean War veterans that we need to continue to do to this very day. And then after the Korean War came the Vietnam War. And we all know what happened, but to this day we're not 100% sure why, but our country literally went off kilter. And the respect that our Vietnam veterans returning home got from their fellow Americans, many of them, it was no respect at all. It just hit rock bottom in terms of how we were treating and respecting these veterans from this very difficult war. I'm standing here now in front of the very moving Vietnam Memorial, not only with these soldiers, brave soldiers behind me, but in front of me is, of course, the Vietnam Wall with the over 58,000 Americans who were killed in action during that challenging and difficult conflict. And of course, it wasn't just our soldiers and men who sacrificed so much during the Vietnam War, but also the women, many of whom were nurses serving in the military. And this is another element of the Vietnam Memorial Complex in Washington, D.C., this very powerful statue of our brave women, members of the military, treating a severely wounded soldier, calling in a helicopter to try to save his life. So when you think about the Vietnam War and how we as a country treated our veterans, we've all heard the stories, whether it's a veteran being spit on or yelled at or have paint thrown on them. What's amazing about the men and women who served in the Vietnam War is they could have taken the anger and mistreatment that they had and been racked with bitterness for what they received in terms of treatment. But here's the amazing thing about our Vietnam War veterans, and I think every American, every Alaskan owes them such a debt of gratitude. What they chose to do as a generation of American veterans is to say, we are not going to allow that kind of treatment to the next generation. We won't allow it. So our Vietnam veterans have been the leaders in making sure the next generation of veterans, those who served in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and all over the world in terms of the global war on terror, are treated well, are treated with respect, are treated with dignity. And once again, we are now treating our veterans at this highest level, like we did in World War II. And this is so much because of the great leadership and example of our Vietnam veterans. I've seen this throughout my own career, coming home from different deployments. I've seen this in terms of just burials. A Marine of mine was being buried at Fort Rich many, many years ago, and Vietnam vets showed up. They didn't even know him. And when I asked why they were at the funeral, they said, we just want to make sure this Marine is treated with honor and dignity. These are our Vietnam veterans who have done such a wonderful job when we're reflecting on how our veterans have been treated throughout American history on this Veterans Day. So because of the work of our Vietnam veterans and many others, as a country, as a state, our nation is back at this high level that we were during World War II and after that war, of respect and honoring our veterans. As I stand here with the Lincoln Memorial in front of me, the Washington Monument and U.S. Capitol behind me, on this Veterans Day, let us resolve to make sure, no matter what our political differences are, no matter what challenges we face, that we always keep in our hearts and in our souls the highest respect for our veterans in Alaska, throughout the country. I know our state will do that, but it's important to always remember as we reflect here in the shadow of these beautiful monuments, to keep that respect for our veterans always at this highest level that we have right now. So once again, I want to thank all of Alaska's veterans, all of America's veterans, and their families. God bless Alaska. God bless the United States of America, and Semper Fi.